penis was oscillating between extremely sensitive and borderline traumatized.
This one's wife. She never spoke about the pregnancies. Why? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As I make repeatedly clear to you, one of the biggest advantages that you have from access to my work is the ability to utilize knowledge about narcissism to understand why this one's wife does certain things and doesn't do other things. By interpreting her behaviors through the prism of her narcissism, it provides you with insight, if you will, an ability to understand what makes her tick, and therefore to determine, is this something that she would be likely to do? Is this something that wouldn't happen? She did this, why? It allows you to unlock so many answers about her, and of course is applicable to many other people besides this one's wife. This one's wife purportedly has 2 children. The issue of those children, whether they exist, whether she gave birth to them, whether a surrogate gave birth to them, whether she used moon bombs, is something that has come up repeatedly. And there remains a hard core of individuals who are steadfast in their belief that she was never pregnant, and indeed that the children don't even exist. There are others who believe that the children do exist, however, they weren't born by this one's wife. One interesting part of the puzzle relates to the pregnancies and this one's wife talking about them. Unsurprisingly, narcissists like to talk about themselves. That way, they find it relatively easy to assert control over people, to draw fuel from them, to access them for character traits and residual benefits. Some narcissists can be very interesting because they are intelligent, urbane, witty, have a wide range of experiences, and are able, through cognitive empathy, to understand their audience so that they have an ability to read those individuals, to know what is to be said, how to make that individual feel like they are the centre of the universe for the purposes of controlling them. Bill Clinton, for example, is an excellent example of a narcissist who is able to do this. Other narcissists are very dull indeed. Empty, devoid of any meaningful experiences. They have to purloin the experiences of others and often then bang on repeatedly about those experiences until you're sick to the back teeth of them. This one's wife loves to talk about herself. She loves nothing more than getting her hands upon a microphone, assuming that she's allowed to have one, so that she can then send glass eyes to sleep with her own brand of beige word salad. She is prone to repeatedly banging on about the same point, whether it's telling you once again that she single-handedly, even though that's not true, caused Procter & Gamble to change an advertising campaign, or that she's bringing up another anecdote from her Suits days, or whether she is making reference once again to the fact that she had to crawl out of the back of a vehicle, even though, of course, that was taken from a Catherine Zeta-Jones car advertisement. This one's wife, being empty on the inside and of not particularly high cognitive function, is dull company. It's very much the case that she's vacuous, self-absorbed, and will just talk about the ephemeral. While she has an interest in fashion and an interest in, for instance, a lifestyle brand and yoga and such like, she will just drone on about the same points in relation to that, numbing her audience into submission. We know that she likes the sound of her own voice. At every event she attends, she wants to be able to try and provide some kind of speech, and where we've had the misfortune of hearing those speeches, you come away from them thinking, I learned nothing. All I heard was a series of fridge magnet platitudes as she droned on, mainly talking about herself. Her appearance at Bridgewater Hall some 18 months ago in Manchester was a prime example of that, as she was meant to be there inspiring those at the One Young World Conference, and instead what did she do? She just talked about the last time that she was at one of these events, and then droned on about herself, and a bit more about herself, and then some more about herself, and then threw in some fridge magnet platitudes. Dull, beige, and uninspiring. Yet her narcissism tells her that she is fantastic and amazing when she talks about all of these things. This one's wife wants to talk about politics. She wants to talk about the fact that she's a good mother, something she's repeatedly made mention of. The fact that she looks after this one, as she referenced Prince Harry as of late, that she likes to ensure that people know that she hadn't been treated very well by the royal family, that she believes that they were racist towards her, that she doles out the pity play that nobody asked how she was, that she can't believe that she's not being paid for what she's doing in terms of a walkabout. She is not shy about opening her mouth and flapping those gums, invariably always having something to say. As a narcissist, this is entirely appropriate and common. By talking and talking and talking, she's seeking to assert control over those that she's talking to and to provoke a response from them by way of fuel. She's invariably set to send and never to receive, because she's not interested in what other people actually have to say, save to the extent that it signals that they're under control and provides her with fuel. She wants them to always be listening to her. She believes what she has to say is of moment, is of importance, is insightful. She believes that she ought to have a platform as this empowered, independent feminist, although, as we all know, she isn't one. She believes herself to be an expert on all things. Thus, she's ready to regale you, with an opinion about anything that you care to mention. And yet, there is one aspect of her life where she has been strangely silent, and this silence is all the more marked for it coming from a narcissist. Narcissists love to tell you what they've been doing, love to show off about what their world is. For instance, all you have to do is look at the social media feed of Chrissy Teigen, the woman who doesn't know how to pronounce her own surname, and you'll see that the minutiae of what she does in her life is put out there for all to digest, if they so choose. Similarly, this one's wife, she brings up the past. Here she is with some pictures of her in a garden from 5 years ago. Here she is with Archie from a number of years ago. Here she is on the set of Suits from a number of years ago. All the PR puff pieces showing her walking through a car parking lot. Fascinating. Oh look, here she is emerging from the dentist. Isn't that interesting? Oh look, there she is walking past Cameron Diaz. This one's wife, through these repeated PR puff pieces and the paparazzi photographs, puts everything out there. And yet, she didn't in relation to her pregnancy. Now, there might be some who will say, well, that's because she wanted to keep it private. To that, I say, absolute horseshit. There is no concept of privacy in relation to this one's wife, save where she uses it as an excuse to reject criticism of her. Then, she wants to go on the worldwide privacy tour. If you criticise her, she pleads privacy, leave me alone. But her day-to-day actions demonstrate she's not interested in privacy, not in the slightest. She puts everything out there. She wants you to know what a wonderful mum she is. She wants you to know that she's a wonderful wife. She wants you to know that she's a brilliant content creator. She wants you to know that she's an up-and-coming politician. She wants you to know that she's a philanthropist caring about those in Uvalde. She wants you to know that she's there, a titan of charitable activity. She wants you to know how many awards she's purchased. Time and time again, through the PR puff pieces and the paparazzi photographs, she ensures that she enters your news stream, that your consciousness is invaded by her. This is a lack of boundary recognition on her part, a sense of entitlement to think that the whole of the world is hugely interested in every single piece of activity that she engages in, and yet she never, ever talks about the pregnancies. Chrissy Teigen did. We got all of the pictures from the room when she had her miscarriage stroke abortion. She's still not sure which one it was. Demi Moore, for instance, was on the cover of a magazine showing off a swollen belly. Many mothers talk about their pregnancies because it's an understandable thing to discuss. The first one in particular, was it a lengthy labour? How painful it was? Was it more painful than they thought? Was it easier than they thought? Were there any complications? What they felt when the child arrived? Were there moments where things held in the balance? Was the umbilical cord wrapped around the throat? Did there have to be an emergency caesarean? I have members of my family who've given birth. I have friends who've given birth, and all of them talk about the pregnancy. I may not be hugely interested in the details of it, but they talk about it nevertheless, and have done so to many people because it's special to them. It matters. And many of those individuals are not narcissists. When it comes to this one's wife, as a narcissist, she would love to talk about herself, as she invariably does. And of course, she likes to bang on about motherhood, but pregnancy she doesn't talk about. Here is an opportunity for her to tell you precisely what went on, how long the labour was, what it felt like. Was she nervous? Was she concerned? What did she feel like when Archie made an appearance? What did she feel like when Lilibet made an appearance? How did that matter to her? Yes, we've had in spare some nonsense about old Ginger Bollocks toking on the gas, which seems to be a made-up story and doesn't ring true whatsoever. But from this one's wife herself, there has been complete silence. This is unusual. It's unusual for a narcissist not to talk about a fundamental aspect of their life, and giving birth is one of life's major events. It's unusual for a narcissist not to want to talk about herself in such a way. It's unusual for the narcissist that is this one's wife not to want to talk about it, because she talks about virtually everything else in her life in such detail. And therefore, it raises that question. We have never heard from her about it. We've never been given the detail of it. There has never been any reference to how it went, what it felt like, any of the detail. And therefore, for a narcissist to be so shy and recalcitrant with regard to this provision of such information leads to the inevitable question, why is there a gap? Why is there a lacuna when it comes to her pregnancies? One of the most obvious answers is there is a gap, that she never talks about them because they didn't happen. We can't say for certain, of course, but once again it's another piece of evidence, and a fairly substantial one of that comes together with others to create the whole of the picture vis-a-vis these mysterious pregnancies and the situation concerning the children. Believe me, a narcissist such as this one's wife would talk repeatedly about it. So many other things she puts in the public domain. Why not the experience of giving birth? On one level, why not? Talk about it, be proud about it. It's a life-changing experience for many women, a glorious experience from what many of them have explained, a painful experience also. And certainly someone who regularly overshares, like this one's wife, you would expect her to talk about it. But she never has done so. I do not buy that this is on the basis of privacy. Privacy is a stranger to her. She lives her life through the lens of everything else, making sure that the world knows about everything that she does. And the circumstances, I don't accept any argument that it's all about keeping the detail private because, well, it should just be kept private. You only have to look at other narcissists and the way that they go on about childbirth to see how it's done, if you will. With her, it really does raise the question as to why she doesn't talk about it, and the answer quite well being, maybe, just maybe, you don't hear anything about it, because it didn't actually happen. What do you think? Do you think that that is a reasonable proposition, given that a narcissist wishes to talk so much about themselves and the life events that they experience, that it is highly unusual for a narcissist not to talk about what happened to them, and therefore for her to fail to do so is more likely to be the case, that it's because nothing actually occurred and she wasn't involved? Or do you think it's something else that means why she doesn't talk about the pregnancies? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.